one of the first times I decided I was going to write. I'm going to write a book, and I went in at my desk. This is early on, and I went into my desk just like I would do going into a job every day. And I sat at my desk and I said, "Today I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write my book today." There's not. What are you going to write? You do have to write something every day. I will tell you, you have to write and write and write. But you can't sit down on Monday and say, by Friday I'll write my book this week. The book comes from sketchbooks, from pieces of paper, from the experiences of the day, from going to visit schools, from picking my daughter up at school. These ideas are floating around and you have to constantly be capturing and looking for them and writing them. And a lot of artists ask about sketchbooks. I keep several sketchbooks, and the sketchbooks have as many words in them as they do drawings. It's not me just drawing trees or drawing something I'm interested in. It's ideas. It's ideas that grow from the drawing, that come from a sentence or a word, that turn into a drawing and then turn into more words. Along the way, I'm also now helping raise a baby. My wife works and I work at home. So I've got some kid duty along the way. Naps might be a big part of my day. When my daughter was young, you get those nap times, and every parent will tell you how wonderful that little break is. And I would run back into my office during nap time, and I would draw or sketch or do a page or write something down. My hours have never been regular since I've started this job. When you're busy on deadline, maybe you're going to be at your desk 14 hours a day, maybe 16 hours that day, but it's not going to be straight through. It's usually 4 hours, and then get my daughter on the bus, get my daughter off the bus, take my daughter to swimming, cook some lunch, cook some dinner, draw some more, see my wife, go to a movie, and then I draw. I really enjoy drawing and writing from about 10 p.m. to about 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Those are my golden hours. So the job is not checking in at your office at 8 a.m. with your cup of coffee and doing your work until 5 and then driving home. The job is all day and all night and all weekend. And what you get done, the quality that comes from it, that is partially luck. That is a lot of work and some lucky moments when things come together, and they're very wonderful. Certainly having a daughter, having a little kid around is inspiring if you're working in kids lit. And my daughter has made a huge difference in re-seeing things of your childhood through her childhood is really enlightening. And so that has had a huge impact on me. And visiting schools. I don't do a ton of school visits, but the school visits I do are incredibly inspiring to just see kids in the classroom and see how they're interacting and what they're reacting to. And I love talking to them about what they're reading, even if it's not my books, right? What are kids talking about? How are they talking? And it's different. I think there's a tendency, and my agent has pointed this out, there's a tendency for children's book authors and illustrators to try to recreate the literature, the work they grew up with. And that's not a good way to work in the commercial arts. I mean, you can be inspired by that stuff we remembered, that we read, that we loved. But the world has changed. Everything keeps changing. And being around kids is incredibly important if you're going to work in the business in a lot of ways. I know some people who don't do that. I know a couple authors who write kids lit, who don't visit schools, who don't have kids. Everyone has their own way of doing it. But for me, being around kids and being part of my daughter's life with her and her friends has made a huge difference to what I write and how I approach it. Those of us who do picture books, who write and illustrate picture books, we're a really strange combination of being a writer and an illustrator, and a visual artist. Telling the plot through visuals and letting the visuals tell you about character. So there's a really strange combination that it really exists nowhere else. That's one of the reasons those of us who love picture books love them so much. It's incredibly unique. A picture book is as much about writing as it is about drawing. So most of the times I'll start with a paragraph. I have an idea. Usually it's a character doing something. And then in my sketchbooks, that character starts to do other things, and I start to write more story. And then I might think of an ending, and then I might draw some pictures that happen before the ending, and then that changes the writing. So the drawings are starting to change the writing. So a picture book isn't just a story that I write, a story that I sit down and type out. For me, it always is interacting with my drawings, and what happens at the end is its own thing. It's a combination of words and pictures in a picture book format. It's not just a manuscript with a couple drawings. A good picture book cannot exist without the drawings carrying part of the story. As an illustrator, I am inspired by abstract expressionists to poets. I think of one of the first artists in college that captivated me was a poet illustrator named Kenneth Patchen, whose abstract work in combination of poetry and images just blew me away. I had never seen anything like it. I like Charles Schulz, Peanuts, as a comic strip, Bill Watterson, who does Calvin and Hobbes. The list is massive. You look at my library, there's all these great things to be inspired by. But they're inspirations, and I think you have to be very careful to not try to become an imitation of. And that's really, I think, the battle for young cartoonists and illustrators sometimes, is to love something, really love something, someone's style, and try to take something from it, be inspired by it, but you can't imitate it. You have to do what you do. You have to be yourself, because you'll never be a better Bill Watterson than Bill Watterson. Calvin and Hobbes is absolutely fabulous, but you can be inspired by it. But just find your own approach. Style. That's when you're a young illustrator, that's all you worry about. And I couldn't sleep at night. I remember not being able to sleep, wondering, well, what's my style? How do I draw? Do I look like Ronald Searle? Do I look like who? How do I draw? What's my style? And I've talked to friends about this in illustration, and what is my style? I don't know. How's that for my answer? I sometimes send something to my agent and I say, what is this? What is this thing I did? I don't know what this looks like. And he goes, it looks like your work. Yeah, it looks just like you. It's a little brighter maybe, but I go, I didn't know that. That looks like my work. Yeah, he says, I think your style is you doing a lot of work. And certainly there's conscious efforts you make along the way. Like there's certain aspects of abstractness in my work. I'm not looking for perfect perspective. I'm looking for something that's emotive. And that comes directly from like the abstract expressionists and expressionists who are communicating something beyond draftsmanship. But I don't know if I can tell you what my style is. Other people seem to know better than I do, and they tell me what my style is. So I have a style. I don't know what it is. One of the books I just finished, when I got done with it, I have to tell you, for the last 2 years I've worked on it, I have learned something every step of the way that I had never known before, and that's my 14th book. I would like to think, boy, I'm perfect now. Every time I put my pencil down, the drawing is perfect. Every time I sit at my computer, I write a great story. I revise. My editors have notes. I get upset when I get notes from my art directors sometimes, but I have to say, 99% of the time, those notes have helped me, have made the book better and made me better. And I think you have to stay open to learning. And this is, for any of the arts, commercial arts, I'm not creating something just for myself. I'm telling a story, I'm making a book for someone else to read and enjoy. And oftentimes, that's where all the difficulty is. Stephen King, I think, in one of his writing books, Stephen King talks about the first draft being for you, you're telling yourself the story, and the second draft is when you start trying to tell the story for other people. And I think that's key. The job is to love what you do, because it all takes a tremendous amount of effort. And you have to love it, because it's so difficult sometimes. If you didn't love it, you wouldn't do it. There's really two great moments that everyone asks you about when they find out you're a writer. You get your book acquired. That's a great day when you get that email or that phone call and they acquired your book. And another great day is when you get that box delivered. The first copies of the book. It's wonderful. I still remember getting the first copies of the book that eats people. In between those great moments is all of this other work, and you have to love doing it. Getting a book acquired and getting those first copies in, that's like vacation in your job. Those are fun and wonderful, but all those days in between have to be just as fun and wonderful, because you don't get to those other ones unless you do that.